just can live again. So fuck Bill Murray, cause it's one of those days that I wish I could rewind.
Hello, welcome. I was loving that new intro, to be fair. Welcome everyone. This is a new pod. It obviously part of the Third and Short brand. You can see we've got two of the regulars here. And Mark had sort of come up with a good idea about giving you guys a bit of a Saturday preview show, more along the TV games. So, we know we're sort of geared up to the more UK fan than we are anyone else. So they're the sort of games that more people will be involved in than anything, along with their own teams as well. And it'll just consist of sort of Mark really looking at sort of key matchups about what's happening, in the TV games. And what you'll probably find is a bit of a balance here of Mark being the expert and me being here from sort of a layman's term and be able to ask questions that, I won't really understand what Mark's talking about in detail. And hopefully most of our listeners that are new to the sport or getting into the sport or the same level as sort of I am will find those questions and the answers Mark will give useful, so we can understand it. Mark, anything from you just about what we're talking about?
Yeah. It's really good that we've got this pod on, because I think when most people are neutral viewing a game on Sky and their team's not necessarily playing in that matchup, and some of them won't have Game Pass and they will be reliant on Sky for televised games, I think this is really good, because when you've got a bit of context for maybe a show like this beforehand, it gives you specific things to look out for and stuff like that. And of course, if you've got a fantasy stake in it as well, that also adds a little bit more fun to it too. So I'm really excited for this pod. Thanks, Tom, for joining us.
Absolutely.
And we'll get through this. I'll let you ask the questions, and I'll expert, did you call this?
Yeah,
more like focused gobshite is what I would describe myself as. But, I don't know if I've ever been called an expert, but I'll try my best to live up to that. Honor,
So for obviously those that know how this sort of works, there's a couple of people behind the scenes who produce the episodes for us. So we've got Jamie from our Monday show and Bones from the Thursday show. I know JP jumps on it every now and again. We've got Bones in the background today working his magic. So hopefully in a second he's going to put up the televised games that are on Sky. There we go. Look at that, right on cue. Obviously we've already had the Jags and Bengals game, so I think what we'll do, Mark, over to you. We'll work through them one by one. 4 fascinating games that I know you'll have some massive matchups about. And then, anyone that's listening, if you've got questions, fire away. I've put it into the group to see if anyone's got any fantasy questions, because I know we're going to touch on fantasy a lot. This is sort of what the pod's about. We want people to be able to be looking into these and going, oh, that sounds like there's a clear winner there in that matchup. Let's look at that for fantasy. And then I think at the end, me and Mark are going to have a bit of a fun and try and have a bit of a competition. Pick maybe 3 players that we're tipping for a good week in fantasy, and then we'll see how much Mark beats me by every week. So, yeah, Browns and Vikings, mate. Where we at?
Joe, this is a tough game to pick. This is a really tough game to pick. The Vikings are much better than their record suggests. They've lost out on a couple of really close games. I'm thinking of the Cardinals games in week 2, which was a real entertaining game, and it was end to end. Kirk Cousins is having a sneaky good season. He's yet to throw an interception. I think he's thrown 7 TDs. On fantasy, he's actually ranked, I think, the number 4 quarterback at this moment in time. You might have to check that. But I know he's in the top 5. And he's having a very sneaky good season, Kirk Cousins. And I think that what the Browns will want to do is establish the run. But I don't necessarily think that it's going to be easy for them to do that. I think Nick Chubb's going to meet Dalvin Tomlinson in the middle of that Vikings defense, which perfectly well from your time from his Tom. And I just think that this is a game which I'm staying away from on the betting. But the closer it gets to kickoff, I'm kind of thinking the Vikings might sneak this in. And I think there's going to be a field goal in it. But I'm erring on the side of the Vikings winning on this, Tom?
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, Tomlinson's huge in this game for me. And you'll know more, but like you say, from his time in New York and seeing what our line's like now without him. Leonard Williams is almost missing. Dexter Lawrence looks missing. And a lot of the fans were saying that last year it was all down to Tomlinson. So don't get me wrong, your stat padder was obviously Leo and Dexter, but now we've got Austin Johnson there in with them. We're struggling. We've got 6 sacks as a team, and 3 of them are from our rookie Aziz Ujulari. So he's clearly a big time player. So it will be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan's asked a really good question there. Will the Browns be able to put enough pressure on Cousins? This Vikings line was suspect going in. In the drafted a left tackle first round in the draft. They took Christian Darrisaw, who's got. I think he's yet to play a snap yet. He's recovering from off-season surgery. So I mean, obviously, you would look at that and you'd think the game that Myles Garrett had last week and the emergence of Jadeveon Clowney is a viable threat opposite him. You would think that that the Browns will be able to get to Cousins, but I'm not too sure that they'll be able to rush him with such abandon as what they did against Justin Fields last week. Yeah. One thing that this Minnesota team can't do, it doesn't really matter if you've got Mattison or Cook in the backfield. They can move the ball on the ground. And if you're sending blitzes, you're vulnerable to run, like runs being chunked off. Yeah. I think this is just not a good matchup for the Browns. And vice versa, I kind of think it's not really a good matchup for the Vikings either. I think what the Vikings want to do on offense slightly favors them more than what the Browns want to do on offense. The Browns are still really to figure out what's going on in their secondary yet, and if you can't attack them, you can attack them in the air. Right. And the Vikings, like I said, have got Kirk Cousins, who's in really good form. They've got Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, who's as good as a wide receiver tandem as you'll find in the NFL. They're up there in the top 5 tandems. And I just kind of think that this is going to be a game where it's going to come down to maybe Kirk Cousins against Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield's going to be asked to throw a lot more in this game. Both are having sneaky good seasons. It's kind of like, who do I trust more in this situation, Tom?
Yeah. So if you were to put on it, who would you trust more out of those two?
I think at the moment, I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins. I think he has slightly better pass catching weapons. I think that this will be a good game for the wide receivers. I love watching wide receivers and I love watching cornerbacks. The 2 positions that I study more than anything are those 2 skill positions, wide receiver and cornerback. And I think Justin Jefferson, he's improving so much in his second year. And his first year was really good as well. You know what I mean? But his route running, his breaks, the variety of roles he can fill in that offense, I think that Justin Jefferson can have a decent day here. And I think on the flip side for the Browns, we've got Odell Beckham Jr. who's come back in. And I really fancy OBJ for a touchdown this week. He's going to be up against Patrick Peterson. Patrick Peterson is, he's been a fantastic corner throughout his career, one of the very best. But he's on that wrong age of 30 now. Seeing that, he didn't do a bad job against Hopkins and things like that. But I do think that OBJ is going to cause him some trouble here, and I really do fancy OBJ for a touchdown.
So OBJ anytime then, calling it.
Yeah. OBJ anytime touchdown score, I'm in on it. I think if we have a running back off the Browns who's going to do well, I think it might be more Kareem Hunt. I think they're going to be looking at more success if they attack the edges of this Minnesota Vikings defensive line. Then going through the middle with Nick Chubb. Saying that Nick Chubb will probably get 150 yards now and totally smash your description as me as an expert, you know what I mean? I do think that out of the running backs for the Browns, I think Kareem Hunt's going to have the better day. The matchup that I'm really looking forward to seeing is in the defensive end on Cleveland's side. It's the defensive end on the Vikings side. Okay. I'm looking at Darnell Hunter, and I'm thinking he's fast, he's got great twitch, he's got great burst and bend. And I think if this does come down to a quarterback battle of Mayfield versus Cousins, I think that Hunter can really cause some trouble for that Cleveland offensive line and
Yeah.
get to Mayfield in the backfield, you know?
And he's not good when he comes out of the pocket, is he, Mayfield?
No, I mean, he's got a really good arm. He can move. He is mobile. He is athletic. I think if there's an over-under on his, yards generated by himself, I think if his under-over sits at about 10 or 15, I would be betting the over on that. I think that Mayfield might get 20 yards rushing this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got a really good arm, but I think he wants to be able to establish the run, and then the play action pass comes into Baker Mayfield's wheelhouse. And I think that's what Stefanski and Mayfield, when they're game planning, will be hoping to do: establish the run, and then eat off the play action pass. But I just don't know. I just don't know if the yards on the ground are going to be there this week for them.
Yeah. Big game, great game to watch. 6 p.m.
Cracking game to watch. I'll be watching this one myself.
Yeah, and then it just gets better, doesn't it? So 9:05, Cards Rams.
Yeah.
What more can you ask for? I think that's a perfect 9 o'clock game. I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah, two unbeaten teams, two NFC West teams. It's a division rival battle,
Yeah.
Two teams who have been balling on offense. Like you look at this game and you think it's going to go over 50 points. But McVay's got a really good record against the Cardinals. He's never lost against the Cardinals as the head coach of the Rams. And I kind of think that the Rams are going to have too much like for this Cardinals team. Yeah. I think that Stafford is on absolute fire.
Yeah.
Although the Cardinals secondary is talented and they're young and have got Butter Baker and Byron Murphy, who's really come along this year, I do think that they are still susceptible to the pass. And I don't think that they'll be able to cover like Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, who's just been in astonishing form this season, because he's got such a rapport with Matt Stafford already. Backing the Rams on this one. I don't think it'll be particularly close. I think the Rams will win by more than 7. I think the spread on the Rams is -4. I'd get in on that. I do think that the Rams will go over 30 points. I don't think the Cardinals will go over 30 points. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think the Cardinals are probably good for 28 points. I think the Rams will get a few more, obviously. And this is going to be offensive. This is going to be the battle of the offenses this week. The Rams look good. I'll come to the Cardinals, but I'll let you answer back on that first, Tom.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, George obviously put about will Rams be able to move the ball on the ground against the Cards? What is your thoughts here? Because, like you say, Stafford, he's absolutely balling out of control at the moment. The Rams have had their problems at running back with, losing who they've lost, and even when they brought Sony Michel in, I think he was the main ball carrier last week, wasn't he? Because Henderson was questionable. So, what are we thinking there?
Well, Henderson's questionable again this week, but I still think he'll make the field. He's a week removed from that injury, and I still think he'll make the field. Sony Michel's a very underrated running back, to be honest with you. The kind of running back who's going to break off 20-yard runs, but he is going to get routinely going to get 4 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, but you're going to keep the chains moving.
Yeah.
Look, I think the thing what's going to make the Rams run the ball and be able to run the ball successfully isn't necessarily the individual they've got in the backfield. It's the play caller, Sean McVay.
Yeah.
He fits into that Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan kind of bracket, who are really creative in the run game, you know what I mean? Who are able to seem to plug anybody back there and they can get yardage. And I would kind of bank on them to be able to get yardage again. To be honest with you, though, I think this is going to be a game where we see both quarterbacks throw over 30 times each. Right, I think it's going to be a ball in the air game. I think the weather's good. You know what I mean? They're playing in LA. It's early in the season. We're only into week 4. Both of them are unbeaten. We've got 2 quarterbacks who are confident. Kyler Murray's really coming along. Stafford's playing out this world at this moment in time. And I just think that it's going to be the first team to blink will lose this.
Yeah.
And I'm banking on McVay and the consistency of the Rams, who are coming off a terrific win against Tampa. Like to be able to carry this on.
Yeah. It was
I mean,
huge victory for them. Huge.
When I
They
look
did it last season, didn't they?
Sorry?
They did it last season, didn't they? The Rams beat Bucks
Yeah,
last
yeah.
season.
The Rams have Sean McVay's won every game against the Cardinals in his time there. He's never lost a game against them. I think when I look at this game, I look at the matchups. I look at the star wide receiver for the Cardinals, Hopkins.
Yeah.
He's going to see a lot of Jalen Ramsey, and Jalen Ramsey's going to travel. I'm not too sure that. I mean, what happens when a movable, unstoppable object meets an unmovable force? You know what I mean? I think if anybody's going to get numbers in this game, it's going to be the number 2 and number 3 wide receivers for the Cardinals. I really fancy AJ Green for a touchdown this week. I know he's not the player he once was, but he's still a legitimate red zone threat. I really fancy AJ Green for a touchdown this week. And I think Christian Kirk will have himself a reasonable game as well. I don't think that Hopkins will have one of those 10 catch, 120-yard games and a couple of scores kind of things that he normally has. Because he's going to be followed everywhere by Jalen Ramsey. So if I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking, who am I banking on to have big games? I'm thinking Murray's going to get yardage on the ground and through the air. He's a no-brain start. Matt Stafford, he's a no-brain start. I think both the wide receivers for the Rams, Kupp and Woods, are going to get grabs in this. And I think the number 2 and number 3 wide receivers for the Cardinals, I think Christian Kirk and I think AJ Green could have decent games as well. Do you know what is it? I wouldn't rule out Chase Edmonds as well underneath, having a couple of grabs.
You love Chase Edmonds.
I don't think he's going to score massive points, but I think he'll come up with like a solid 12 or 13 in fantasy. You know what I mean? I'm not. He's not going to get into the paint. He's not going to get a touchdown. I don't think he's too light, and he doesn't play in the red zone packages much. So if he's getting a touchdown, he's breaking one of those screens, or like one of those gadget players where they found him out the backfield.
Yeah.
But I think you'll have a steady floor this week as well.
Yeah. So back to the Hopkins and Ramsey matchup, because obviously that's going to be the one that, especially someone like you in the skill positions that you love, you're going to be watching. Who's your winner out of that? What would you class Ramsey keeping Hopkins under as a win for Ramsey?
I think we're not going to. I think what we're going to see is Cliff Kingsbury trying to move Hopkins around to try and get him out of underneath Ramsey.
Yeah.
I think we might see a bit of Hopkins in the slot here, where Ramsey isn't overly comfortable in. We saw Hunter Renfrow put him on skates, like in pre-season. Ramsey's still very good in the slot, but it's not as 40. He's better as an outside corner. And I think if Cliff Kingsbury wants to get Hopkins into this game, it might be putting him in the slot and playing him as a big slot, which he can certainly do.
Yeah.
When I look at the battle on the outside, one-on-one on the outside, I think Ramsey will be able to shadow him and cover him in that situation. I think if Hopkins is played a little bit in the slot, I think he might have some upper hand there. It's going to be a great battle to watch. It's certainly going to be the single game breaker of this game. If the Cardinals can get Hopkins into the game, they've got a chance to win it. If the Rams can stop Hopkins, they're going to win it. And I'm favouring on the side of them being able to stop him on the outside, but maybe him getting some grabs on the inside.
I like it. Again, I just can't wait to watch that match. I really can't.
It's going to be, it'll be the game I'm watching. It's going to be a phenomenal game. Really, this weekend's games with Sky have chosen. They're just perfect. I mean, I've got Game Pass as well, but I'll not be deferring from Sky. I'll just be watching all of Sky's games this week.
Yeah, it is perfect. So we'll move on then to the next, which is it's the Brady show, isn't it? I think that's what it'll be billed as. Brady back at the Patriots. So, I mean, for me, I don't think it's a massive matchup, if I'm honest. Just because of how strong the Bucs are. But again, that's me and my sort of limited knowledge and just being in the game the past few years, seeing how Patriots have sort of declined and the Bucs have increased. So, where's this game won and lost? Where is it for you? Do you think the Buccaneers are heavy favourites?
Look, Jordan's put in the chat that this game's been underplayed, and I think the media have hyped it, but both Belichick and Brady have been very silent and resolute on this. You know,
Yeah.
Belichick was being asked about the game on Thursday, and he was still talking about the game on the weekend that had just gone.
Yeah.
Didn't want to talk about this game, and Brady's underplayed it as well. Look, the Bucks aren't in a great form. They're not in great injury form, at least. Like, you know what I mean? Their secondary's depleted. They're missing bodies at the back end there. I think what goes in their favour is they've got a rookie quarterback at New England who just threw 3 picks last game. And I think what New England will want to do, they'll want to run the ball with Harris. And I don't think that the odds are going to be there. He's going to be meeting some big bodies in Sue and Vita Vea. And I think this is going to be a Bucks win. But saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick just schemes something up. You know what I mean? And Tampa were beaten here. It's just one of those games. It's just full of. There's so many storylines in it. You know, you get so much from it. You know about Bill Belichick not wanting to speak to Tom Brady the day he left, and like fallouts with certain players because of Tom Brady's dietitian and stuff like that, who had such a say in the team. Then you've got Gronk, who looks like he's going to be doubtful for this game. And you've got the Antonio Brown as well. Let's not forget he had a stint at the Patriots as well. And it's just this is storylined. It's got so much in it that I think everybody since Tom Brady left New England was looking forward to seeing him go back. Like on another team. I think you'll get cheered off the fans of New England. I think they'll cheer him running on and boo him during the game. But that's what we would do, you know what I mean? I don't think they'll boo him from his entrance. I think they'll cheer him running on and boo him during the game. I just think Tom's going to be incredibly motivated for this game. And I think he's going to really want to stick it to Belichick.
Yeah.
And I think the Bucks are going to win it. I just think it's going to be such a real pantomime to watch. And I think the commentary on this game might be something else as well.
So obviously, like you say, they depleted it at the DB position, and they've brought in, like George said here, they've brought in Sherman. Is that a signing for the experience side of things? Is it a signing for his ability? Is it both? How important is he going to be to this Bucs side at the moment?
At this stage, you've got to ask what Sherman got left in the tank. I know he had a reasonable season last year, but he's always been smart.
Yeah,
it's the way he uses his body. It's the way that he uses the sideline. It's the way that he reads the quarterback's eyes that have made Richard Sherman a really good cornerback in this NFL. I just think that, look, I just don't think that they've got the weapons. I like Jacoby Myers. I like Nelson Aguilar. I just don't think that they're going to trouble. I don't think either of them are going to trouble Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
I think he's too clever for them. You know what I mean? Although both of them on paper, you would think, well, they're the type of cornerbacks that might trouble them. They're both small. They're both shifty. They're both fast. I just think that Sherman's seen it all at this stage of his career. And I think if anything's going to beat him, it might be a little bit of ring rust, Tom. He's been out. He hasn't had a preseason. He might have well kept himself fit. He's a dedicated pro. I imagine he has. But he's still got to get up to game speed. And he is against two very good, shifty, fast wide receivers. On the whole, in particular, who can take it to the house. You know what I mean? From a grab. He's fast enough to be able to do that. Saw that with the Raiders last year. So he's going to have to be switched on. But I just kind of feel like he's going to have seen this kind of stuff before. When you've been in the NFL this long, there's not many types of wide receivers that you haven't seen before. Put it that way, Yeah.
So what is it a booked clear win for you then? What do you know what the spread is?
I don't know what the spread is. But I fancy the Bucs to win this by. I fancy the Bucs to win this 28. I think Bucs will get 28 points. I think it's going to probably be about 17 points for New England. I can see them getting 2 touchdowns and maybe a field goal. So I've got the Bucs maybe 11 points winning this by I do think it'll look comfortable for them, but
The spread's 7.
uncomfortable.
I've just had a look. The spread's
Yeah.
7.
I'm back in the books to cover that spread. Then
Yeah.
I'm back in the books to cover that spread.
So
On
do you
the other
think?
side of the ball,
Go on.
you know, like the Patriots are missing Gilmore at this moment in time.
Yeah.
They've got JC Jackson, who's a very good developing cornerback. I think he's going to be all right against, Evans, I think, On the other side, they've got Jalen Mills. This is the matchup that Tampa will want to exploit. Jalen Mills came from Philadelphia Eagles. He was cut by them because he wasn't very good in man coverage. And no team will play man coverage more than the New England Patriots. They want their cornerbacks to be able to be on an island, to be matched up against the opposing team. I think this could be a game for Antonio Brown. I've got him as an anytime touchdown scorer. I would also maybe take a little punt on him as the first touchdown scorer as well. I think they're going to want to get him in the game early. I think he's going to want to get in the game early. Brady's got a bit of a connection with Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
And I do think that Antonio Brown can absolutely eat Mills' lunch. Jalen Mills will have a very difficult evening against Antonio Brown. And Chris Godwin, if he goes out there as well. But I'm thinking that they're going to go with Brown on the outside. They're going to go with Evans. So there's your X and your Z. And I think we'll see Godwin working out the slot. And I'm starting Brown. I'm starting Brown in all formats that I've got him in this week. I'm going to have a punt on him scoring the first touchdown in this game. And I'm definitely going to take him as being an anytime touchdown scorer. I think he's going to have a big game this week. He will be on my wide receivers fantasy challenge with you, Tom.
Yeah. So all signs point to Bucks win. What you mentioned, obviously, you wouldn't be surprised if Bills scheme something. They got the Patriots. Is that the only way they win? It's not ability. It's going to be scheme.
It's not a good matchup for them. The Bucks are a much better side. It's not a really good matchup for them. They might want to try to get the tight ends in the game. Jonnu Smith, I think, might have a good game. Winfield Jr. is not the biggest body. And I think Jonnu Smith might have a decent game. And I think Hunter Henry on the other side might have a decent game. But if I'm picking one of those tight ends, I'm picking Jonnu Smith.
Yeah.
I just think that the Bucks are too good. They're Super Bowl champions, and they've got a few injuries. I just think they're too good for this.
So, right, happy days. And then we'll finally move on to the one where I'm probably going to see you more passionate. Bit of bias here. But obviously, Raiders at Chargers, which divisional, we're looking forward to this game. Herbert, cars on fire. Talk to me. Where are we at?
Well, this Chargers team isn't a good matchup for the Raiders. Obviously teams in their division will draft and build to stop teams within their division. And what we've done is we've went fire for fire against teams like Kansas. You've got Tyreek Hill, we'll go get Henry Ruggs.
Yeah.
You've got Keenan Allen, we'll go get Brian Edwards. You've got Travis Kelce, we've got Darren Waller. And we've tried to mix and match, and find our versions of them. What we saw the Chargers beat Kansas last week in their own ground. I would rather play Kansas than the Chargers because the Chargers, the matchup isn't very favourable against us. I think we've got a better matchup against the Chiefs than we do against the Chargers.
Yeah.
Look, I'm like the most tempered Raiders fan because I've followed them for years and I don't get carried away. I was saying to my mates in our group chat, I was like, maybe if we go into the bye unbeaten, I'll start talking about playoffs, you know what I mean? But this is our hardest game of the season so far. This is our toughest game of the season so far.
Yeah.
What we saw the Chargers do against the Chiefs last week is we saw them playing a lot more man than what they normally do. Normally, that defense will normally play a cover 6. So what cover 6 is, it means is that you drop your back 4 back. That's cover 4. Your 2 safeties and your 2 cornerbacks. You drop them back. But then you also defend the quarters with 2 linebackers. So cover 4 plus cover 2 becomes cover 6. And it's also called quarters coverage as well. I think that's what this Chargers defense will normally be built on. It's similar to what Vic Fangio plays, and Brandon Staley's from that. However, what we saw against the Chiefs is they played in man. about 60% of the time. So what they did is actually played a man coverage a lot. And I think we'll probably see a little mix and match of cover 6 zone coverage and man coverage against the Raiders. Obviously, our biggest weapon is Darren Waller, but they've got Derwin James. And if anybody can follow Darren Waller, and if anybody is fast enough, strong enough, athletic enough to be able to nullify Waller, it's Derwin James. I think he's probably the only player in the NFL who I would think, Waller might actually not win that matchup against.
Yeah.
I think Raiders are going to have to establish the run. The LA Chargers have got the worst run defense in the NFL at this moment in time. Clyde Edwards-Helaire just put up over 100 yards on him, and he's never getting over. He's been terrible since he's come to the league. He's been underwhelming, but he put up over 100 yards on them last week. You know, and I think Tony Pollard broke off a big run against them the week before against Dallas. So I think if the Raiders want to win this game, they're going to have to establish the run. Now, the problem with that is, Tom, is our offensive line has not been able to generate anything in running the ball. Peyton Barber got 100 yards last week against Miami Dolphins, but it wasn't like a stellar running performance. It was just, like a lot of volume. And when you look at our PFF pass blocking grades, they're far greater than our PFF run blocking grades. We're amongst the lowest in the NFL for our run blocking grades. So the Raiders are going to have to figure out how to get that ball on the ground and how to run it and to control the clock.
Where's Jacobs at the moment? Because he's missed, hasn't he? He's missed the last two. He's missed Jacobs.
Jacobs might be back. He's been training this week. He might be back. I think we might see a little bit of Jacobs. We'll probably see more Peyton Barber. Yeah. Jalen Richard has come back in. I'm a little bit underwhelmed with Kenyon Drake so far. One of the things I thought Kenyon Drake was pretty good at was pass blocking. He's really struggled at it at the Raiders. It hasn't been as much of a factor as Peyton Barber was last week. And I think we'll probably see Peyton Barber and we'll probably see Jacobs eat up the majority of the carries here,
Yeah.
And we've got to be able to run the game. We've got to be able to run the ball in this game to win this game.
Yeah. Obviously, we talked about Renfro a lot in the group and we've seen his route running. So is he a big factor in this if they're going man at times and then they're going into obviously the cover 6? He just puts DBs on their arse all the time, like you say. You've seen what he's done in pre-season, but I don't know who it was against last week that you put that in the group where, oh God, he just absolutely put him on his arse, just
sent him for a hot dog
on the shoulder and off. Yeah, so what are we talking here? Fantasy wise, is he someone to be getting in?
Yeah, obviously I'm looking at the Raiders running backs. I'm looking at Hunter Renfro in this game. What we saw the Chargers do last week is they almost dared Kansas to run. They went, right, okay, we're not going to give up the big play. We're not going to let you put 21 points on us in the quarter, which is what Kansas can do. Yeah. We're going to play a lot of coverage back there, but you can have all this underneath stuff. You know what I mean? And I think the Raiders are going to have to be clever, and they're going to have to take what Carr is. He'll take what he can underneath.
Yeah, safe.
I think that Renfro, and I think Renfro is probably going to have a decent game this week. I think he's going to be our wide receiver catches leader. I think it's going to be mostly on Renfro and the running backs. I don't really like the matchups with Waller and Derwin James. Ruggs is never going to be a 10-catch-a-game guy. Yeah. He's going to be 4 catches, 85 yards in a TD.
Play. Yeah.
And Edwards is your possession type, your ex-receiver. He might have a reasonable game this week. If I'm backing anybody, though, I'm backing Renfro from that group. And I'll come to Chargers after you've wrapped up on that point, actually, Tom.
Yeah. So that's it. That's what I was looking at the Raiders more than anything. Was where your big wins be. So it's over to the Chargers now. They're favourites for the game. It's only a 3.5 spread, but where do they win this game? Obviously, you touched on their defensive coverage and what they're inviting to do, but they've still got to be offensive on the ball. So we know about Herbert, but how are they going to be lining up against you?
Yeah, so the Raiders play cover 3, which is different to cover 6. Cover 3 basically means we play a single high safety who drops back. He's one of the coverage, and 2 corners who drop back. So we play cover 3. Cover 3. What we don't, and we have a strong safety which lines up in the middle of the field. Divine Diablo's been coming in and playing a bit of strong safety, and there's been some robber techniques that we've used within that. So there's a few wrinkles within our cover three. It's not the old Seattle cover three, although it's got many aspects of it. But what, like a bit like what the Chargers want to do, we're going, you can't have anything behind us, but we'll give you this stuff in front of us. And what we're banking on is we're banking on players like our linebackers being able to read and react quickly and to come downhill, and for the extra safety in the box to be able to get sideline to sideline to stop those 3 and 4 and 5 yard dump offs becoming 11-yard gains. Problem is though, you've got Keenan Allen in this game and you've got Austin Eckler. And if any wide receiver is good yards after the catch, it's Keenan Allen. He can get open in a phone booth. His roots are that good. You know, he's got elite foot. He's got elite foot work. He's just such an underrated wide receiver. But if you watch him, his movement's great. The guy would be able to get open in a phone booth. Is my favorite saying about him. That's how I would describe him. That's how good he is. You know. Yeah. And I think that he's going to be a threat in this game. I also think that Eckler out the backfield, more as a receiver than a runner, could have a decent game here. Do you know what it is, Tom? This is such a hard game to pick. It's like it's so difficult. And I think it's going to boil down to whoever has the ball last will win this game. Whoever has the ball last will win this game. Yeah. God, am I going to say Raiders? Am I going to say Raiders and just allow myself to get excited this early into my weekend? Am I going to say I'm going to edge me bets on this one? I'm going to push it at this moment in time. Yeah. I think I'm going to say I'll take the Raiders with the spread. I don't know what the handicap is, but I'll back the Raiders with the handicap points and push this one. But yeah, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be Justin Herbert's turning into a bloody fine quarterback. By the way.
So that's what I was going to say. Was obviously, you know, my main input on this will be to sort of ask questions about the more detailed stuff he said. So you've obviously talked about your cover three there. So my understanding is, like you say, that free safety is he will read the quarterback to go, right, where am I almost doubling when that ball comes out? So my basic understanding, and this is where I need you to sort of explain it, is I look at that and I go, well, with the Chargers offensive line doing well at the moment, and Rashawn Slater's, you know, unbelievable. Herbert is looking strong and strong. For me, surely all they do is design plays, and obviously it won't be every play, but you design plays to look at Robert Woods, take the free safety over there, and then just drop it into Eckler with Keenan Allen. That'll be one-on-one. So is it as simple as that, or?
I mean, look, cover three is easy picked apart. It's an easy defense to understand. They played in high school, Tom. But I think what you've got to understand as well, though, is this is NFL coaches. They're not gonna come out in cover three all the time. Yeah. Michael Lombardi made this really ridiculous point early on this year. Yeah, just earlier on this week, in fact. And I was like, that's just ridiculous. He said a good quarterback will be able to find the holes in the Raiders defense. I'm like, well, yeah, of course it will. Cover three's been around forever. But you think Gus Bradley's going to come out continually in cover three? Yeah. You know what I mean? We're going to see different coverages in there. And look, Herbert's the best quarterback we've come up against this season. We've came up against Lamar Jackson in the first game. We came up against Ben Roethlisberger in the second game. And last week we had Jacoby Brissett. Now, as passers, as actual pure passers, neither of them three light the world on fire. Lamar Jacobs obviously brings a threat on the ground and he's improving as a passer. But he's still not going to blow you away with his arm. He's not going to put 400 yards up on the game. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or he's not that kind of quarterback. He might generate 400 yards with his legs and his arm. You know what I mean? But so Herbert's the best quarterback, pure passing quarterback. In fact, I'd say he's the best quarterback we've come up against already this season. He's already on progression for an MVP type season in his future. I'd probably say he's already better today year two than Mahomes was year two. Bearing in mind that Mahomes sat the whole first year. The kid's just brilliant. He's more careful with the ball as well. He's a really, really annoyingly good quarterback. I'm not a fan of the LA Chargers, but it's hard not to look at Justin Herbert and go, wow, you're going to be an absolute multiple MVP winning superstar, you kid. You know what I mean? He's good. He's really good, Tom. So I think what does bode in our favour is that Dan Quinn took the Cowboys to LA and held them to 17 points.
Yeah.
18 points, 17 points. I can't remember what it was. Held them around that range. Dan Quinn is Seattle cover 3. Basically the exact same defense as what Gus Bradley will come in.
Right.
Now, there'll be some wrinkles in that. There'll be some changes in that. But that's got to give the Raiders hope. And I think that's what we're pinning our hope on. That we can stymie their defense, their offense.
So, again, it's a game I'm looking forward to. I'll admit I'm not staying up for that one. There's no personal love in there, but can't wait to see the highlights on it. And it's a difficult one because I've always been slightly Raiders favourable. But you started to come out with your Giants agenda, so I'm going away from the Raiders now. So maybe I'll be hopeful for that chat on Monday with Matt where I'm looking at a Raiders loss, but we'll see. It's an exciting game. One thing I wanted to do was I've got some questions in the group, I think, about fantasy matchups and stuff, but I wanted you to pick a player from each of the games, just a fantasy player from each of the 4 games that you would bank. So Browns and Vikings, who would be your fantasy player out of there?
Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah. Okay. Cards and Rams. It's a tough one.
Cooper Kupp.
Like it. Bucks and Patriots. Antonio Brown. And Raiders and Chargers.
Austin Eckler.
Oof. Hate to say that. Right, let's have a quick look. So, one from Chris here. I've got Herbert and Stafford at QB. Who should I be starting?
Oh, God, Jesus Christ, Chris. That's a nightmare for you. That's a nightmare. I would be starting... Go with the hot hand. Keep with Matt Stafford. Go with the hot hand. Stay with Matt Stafford.
Okay. Start 2 out of these 3. So, Ayuk, Devontae, and Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders, by the looks of it. E. Sanders.
Well, the Philadelphia Eagles are playing the Chiefs, which means that... And the Chiefs got beat last week, and Andy Reid's going back to Philadelphia. So I think the Chiefs are going to want to blow Philadelphia out of the water, which means that Philadelphia are going to be chasing the game, which means the ball's going to be in the air a lot. So I'm going to go for Devonta Smith is one of them. Who are the other 2, Tom?
Ayuk and Emmanuel Sanders.
Right, and you've got the Seattle Seahawks playing the 49ers. And you've got the Texans playing the Bills. Oh, that's a tough one to pick from. My gut is saying go Ayuk. So I'm going to go Ayuk.
Right, perfect. I think there was only 2 by the looks of it in there. So then we'll go to our 3 players. So I don't know if you want to do just a quarterback, running back, and a wide receiver. And then we'll see next week how we get on. I've picked a bit of a dodgy wide receiver, if I'm honest, but I'm going for it. I like to put my random shouts out there.
So I'm just going to have a quick little look at the full slate of games. I can remember most of the games. So Tom, just give us 2 minutes and just chat. I'm going to have a quick look.
Yeah. So I'll talk about mine. Just obviously why you're looking there. So at quarterback, begrudgingly gone for Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a good game. Obviously versus San Fran. No, San Fran are bit weak in the DB area. I know JP had some concerns. I was just struggling elsewhere looking just because of the matchups. So I've gone there. Running back, I couldn't pick between Henry and Kamara purely because Henry's against the Jets. So I'd expect a 200-yard game. But we've obviously got Saints and we've just lost Blake Martinez. I'm worried about how susceptible we're going to be with Kamara being able to come out of the backfield as well. Especially when our only pass rush is coming from the edge. So I think they could design quite a lot to, bypass Aziz and Lorenzo Carter. So I'm probably going to go Kamara there, just in the hope that I'll be happy if he's shit. And obviously, if he's not shit, then at least I'll have something to go with here. And then wide receiver, I've gone for Cephas of the Lions. They're playing the Bears. The Bears are in an absolute... I think they might even be in a worse position than the Giants at the moment. So I'm just hoping he has a field day. So there's plenty more wide receivers out there that I could have touched, but you know what I mean. I like to have a bit of a dodgy call every now and again. I haven't given a dodgy one this season yet, honestly, Von Miller. But it's I've gone there. So they're my three. How are you beating them?
Right, I'm looking at the Cowboys against the Panthers game, and I'm thinking that could be close. I'm going Dak Prescott in that game as my quarterback. Running back, I'm going to take the guy who you didn't take. I'm going to go with Derek Henry because Julio Jones and AJ Brown are both out this week, which means that they're going with Henry and they're going to be riding Henry. I really fancy him for a few touchdowns. So I really fancy him for a few touchdowns. So I'm going to put Derek Henry in there. And wide receiver, I'm going to go Antonio Brown. Again, the one that, people are looking at our Bucs team. They've got so many weapons there. People will think, well, Godwin and Evans, but I really think that Brown can eat Jalen Mills' lunch all day long.
And there's a bit of a grudge there, like you say, a bit of a chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, there's a bit there. There's a bit of spice there, isn't there, Tom?
Yeah. So I wrote those down, so we'll revisit them next week. I think that's it for the episode. We said we are going to sort of keep it around the 45-minute mark. We've done the 4 games. We've done a bit of fantasy. First of many, hopefully. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, there'll probably be a representative from each pod the majority of the weeks. I think it'll mainly be me and Mark, but there'll be times where others filled in. But yeah, hopefully we'll start getting some more questions. Predominantly fantasy based is what we're wanting. So if anyone wants any assistance out there, Mark is your guy without a doubt. But yeah, cheers, Mark. Anything for you to wrap up?
No, just what a great first episode. Really loved it. Hope the viewers like it. I imagine that Jamie will get this live where you can get your podcast tomorrow. So if you haven't got the opportunity to watch it live, you can tune in tomorrow when you're at the gym or when you're cooking your dinner. And this could be part of your Sunday ritual in the morning. I hope that people enjoyed it. We love a bit of feedback. So please feel free to feedback, subscribe, like, follow us both on Twitter. Any feedback's good feedback. Even if there's a criticism, like it's something we can work on, feel free to drop us a line. Try to jump in our DMs. I know I would answer them. And enjoy your weekends, whatever you're doing. Stay blessed and have a really good Sunday, guys,
Love it. Cheers, mate.